wabarakatuh. Salam satu Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming in our nation building series, which we haven't done for quite a while. And of course, true to the Malaysian tradition, which click attending on the Facebook group, which is about 400 plus. So we book a junior ballroom. Well, I guess they're caught in a traffic jam. Let's hope so. Again, apologies to our guests here. Anyway, first I will give some brief for those who come here for the first time. Now, this session is being done in English. However, sekiranya kalau ada sebarang soalan, pertanyaan yang tidak digunakan dalam bahasa kebangsaan, saya alu-alukan. Jangan risau, tak ada masalah. Okay, format dia lah. The format today is that we'll have a short presentation from our guests today, and then we'll do a bit of Q&A. It's kind of like a forum thing. And then we'll open the question to the floor. As you can see, there are two mics over there and over there. And please do ask anything you want, but I ask please keep relevant to the topic. For instance, do not ask when the next general election is, because none of us will know that. However, please keep to the topic. But do not worry, this is a no-holds-barred session. If you have any question lingering to your mind, you really feel it, don't worry. There will be no persecution whatsoever. Just ask. Alright, now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you. Our first guest in the middle here is Ravindran, Director of the National NKRA in Corruption. And on the far left is Lokman Effendi, Manager of NKRA for Corruption. They are both from Pemandu. And our topic today is National Key Result Area Fighting Corruption. And of course, their presentation will shed a little more light. However, you know, they've spent their time off office hours. I think they deserve a little bit of applause from us. Please. Thank you very much. By the way, I remind the taxpayers, there are no overtime. They do it out of love for the country. Indeed. Thank you for coming. Anyway, it's been a while in our nation building series. At first, we had, in our first and second nation building series, we got people from Pemandu as well. One is from the communication and the other one is from the crime section. And I guess after a year plus, we catch up back on Pemandu to see what they are up to. So let's just hope we get some good news and such. Again, this event is usually kind of lax. There's little, what do you call it? Just you know, kind of lax. All right. Without further, we'll start off with a presentation from user. Well, please, on floor.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming. Thank the organizers for having us here. But more so than them, I think we need to thank you, the audience, for coming. That too, on a weekday evening when you could have been doing something a lot more exciting. And that too, to listen to corruption, which is not the most exciting of subjects. So again, thank you. I think you deserve a round of applause. Let me first start by reflecting a little bit. When I first joined Pemandu, I've never worked for government. When I first joined Pemandu, Dr. Sri Idris said, I've got something really interesting for you. You will love this. And he said, look, we have at that point we had six key result areas. Anything from education, crime, low-income households, to urban public transportation, to rural basic infrastructure. Then you had corruption. So I thought he was going to give me something really exciting, like crime. Then I can go home and tell my sons, I'm a Batman. You know, I fight crime. But when I walked into his office, he said, Ravi, you've just come back from India. I think you like this, you find this very challenging. I want you to do corruption. So when I went home that day, I told my wife, he wants me to fight corruption. So she kind of said, maybe we go back to India? Right? So with that, let me start a little bit. I'm sure all of you have understood what our PM has been endeavoring to do over the last couple of years. Right? It's part of the overall national transformation agenda, propelling our country to become a fully developed nation. There are some of us who've left private sector, some of us who've left government sector, right? Some of us who have left GLCs to come and kind of do national service. And to be part of this full transformation of our country. And when I did come back to Malaysia, a lot of my friends said, why? But why government? Right? You can do anything. But what I kind of tell them back is, after 2 years, I still can go back to private sector. I still can go back to an MNC. I can still do anything. But at least I've done something. Have you? Right? So I think it's incumbent on all Malaysians to stand up. Every time, especially those who have had the opportunity to study overseas, work overseas, you find a lot of armchair politicians sitting somewhere in Melbourne or the UK or somewhere and saying, oh, everything is bad, Malaysia is lousy. But you find out they are the ones who got the scholarships. Government sponsored. Right? They are the ones who will talk about everyone else, but when you come there, ask them to come and serve the country, serve the nation. Right? But rather than be an armchair politician somewhere else, why not put to practice what you wanted your country to look like? So we have, as all Malaysians, we have the chance to chart a new future. That is what we're doing. So when we started, there were 6 NKRAs. Right? There was crime, fighting crime, education, in particular early education, low-income households, eradicating poverty, urban public transportation, providing better transportation systems in Kuala Lumpur, Greater Kuala Lumpur, right? Rural infrastructure, giving light, giving electricity, giving water, giving roads to the rural folks, right? For the first time, some of them actually have access to basic things that you and I take for granted. And then there's corruption. And when we first started identifying with corruption, you got to step back for a moment. Right? And I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you have been solicited for a bribe in the last couple of years? Asked for a bribe. Yeah? How many of you have given? Yeah? I'll tell you a little bit more, right? Like crime. It's easy for my colleagues to put a face face of a policeman. The blue tiger, Harimau Biru, right? It's easy because you can identify with low-income household. You can put a really dilapidated house or a poor person. You can identify with it. Education, you can identify with school kids in a uniform. How do you identify with corruption? It's everywhere. Everyone does it. Right? We've all been hit by it. Some of you have given, some of you have taken. It happens and it will continue to happen. So we needed to get an identity to it, right? It's not one of those things that you can say, let's put 500 policemen in that spot and eradicate the crime there. Let's get funding to that particular low-income area and get them out of poverty. Let's get them jobs. Let's get food and other amenities to them. Let's bring these school kids and push them into this early education centers and really drive education. It's not something that you can immediately address. And over the last 2 years, while addressing it, we've also kicked up the dust. All this while, we've never talked about it. We knew it existed. We all practiced it, right? But suddenly, under the current leadership, we said, yeah, let's talk about it, my friends. Bring it on, right? And that created dust. So suddenly, everyone thinks there's a lot more corruption, but not necessarily true. It's all that dust that was settled a long time ago, which we've just kicked up the storm, right? It will take a while before the storm settles. We started off with about 23 or 26 different initiatives under the Government Transformation 1. The first government transformation program. We're currently in the lab again. We are redoing the GTP, so there's GTP 2 coming out. And initially, we lumped all these initiatives into 3 different categories, right? Anything from grand or institutional corruption, anything to do with the politicians, political parties, to government procurement. How does procurement take place? Is it fair and transparent? To enforcement agencies, because these were seen as the most corrupt. Why are they seen as the most corrupt? Because these are the ones that have daily interaction with the rakyat. Okay. Then we made a conscious effort to say that, look, we can't get immediate fast results, but we need to build a wall against corruption. So building a wall against corruption is not done overnight. It takes time. So it's basically putting in basic building blocks to fight corruption. That's what we started doing. We started off with the Integrity Pact. This is something that Transparency International subscribes to. And the Integrity Pact was started off with the support of Ministry of Finance. And and to date, we've got more than 100,000 Integrity Pacts signed. And we've gotten it a lot more tighter, right? What this is every bidder, everyone who wants a government contract has got to sign a pact with the government that they will not indulge in corrupt practices. We further tightened this to say, you will sign as CEO, but your company is not liable. Your board is not liable. So today, we insist for a board mandate, board resolution. So while the CEO signs, that resolution holds the entire board responsible for integrity. This has been done. This is ongoing. Over 100,000 of these in place. Stiffer punishment. We worked with the court system. We worked with Chief Justice and the Attorney General, right, to ensure that corrupt offenders, corruption offenders, were going to get harsher punishment. We speeded up corruption trials. We set up specific, specialized corruption courts. We have 14 courts across the country specialized on corruption. Only hear corruption cases. So by the end of this year, all the backlog is clear. And some of this backlog went 15 years back. So ada kalanya, witness dia, dah mati, dah hilang, right? We can't prosecute. And let me tell you a little bit about corruption. Unlike crime, criminal trials, right? The minute, if you are a smart guy, you're involved with, I'm not giving you tips here, but if you're a smart guy and if you're involved in any form of corrupt practice, all you need to do is open up an account in Singapore. It will take more than 18 months for us to extradite the records from Singapore. By which time you can tamper with the evidence. That is how hard it is to prove the audit trail. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what more we're doing. Then for the first time, we pushed through a new act called the Whistleblower Protection Act. Right? The Whistleblower Protection allows for general public to come forward and complain, thus reducing surat layan. Okay? But there are still members of the public who will prefer complaining to a commando or complaining somewhere else. But if their complaint, copy from Prime Minister to all the ministers. But you need to be aware, the minute your complaint, you as a complainant come forward and your identity is known by me, you cannot avail protection. You must go to a relevant enforcement agency and report. Adalah, we still have people coming to me, Director Corruption. By the way, I hate the term, Director Corruption. So I've asked Idris to change it to Director Anti-Corruption. But we still have people coming to me to blow the whistle. Last year, my team comprised of 2 lawyers, 2 ladies, kachi. Okay? And there was this guy who was constantly calling, I must see you, I must see you, I must see you. So finally I said, okay, let him come, because he was just not letting up. So we thought that this was, and he sounded old. Okay, so we thought that he was an old gentleman. Okay. This guy came, and we were walking into the conference room, and suddenly I realized my 2 colleagues refused to come inside. There was this huge guy sitting there, okay, huge. And obviously he had a jacket because he had taken his jacket off. He had sleeveless. He had tattoos from all over. He had a long plaid. Of course I was jealous because I couldn't grow plaids, right? But he had a long plaid, right? Obviously a member of a triad. Sitting there, so we said, okay, let's listen. As he was talking, it became clear that there was something there, and I had to keep stopping him. Please don't tell me anymore. I can't hear anymore. I'll take you to NACC. Halfway, he said, Mr. Ravi, this meeting never happened, yeah? I said, yeah, sure. Then, after a little while, he started fishing for a piece of paper. Took it out, put it on the table. I need to tell you something also. I'm actually dead. This guy has faked his death. He gave me his death certificate. He was a whistleblower. So we get a lot of interesting, this is some of the rare cases that corruption becomes interesting one. Okay? But we get all these cases and we have to keep telling people, please don't tell us. Don't come to us. Don't let me know your identity. I'll take you straight to MACC. Right? The minute you tell me, you can't get protection. We also work on integrity units, so internal affairs units at all the enforcement agencies, right? We wanted to recognize government servants who come forward to report corruption offenses and reward them. Okay, so we said, okay, we can share part of that corruption amount with these government servants. So we even did that. And we said we needed to go further because it is the local government sometimes that's got a lot of corruption. So we put a league table together on all local governments from Subang Jaya Municipal Council to Kanga somewhere. All the country's local governments have been put on a league table, and we can tell you which one is more corrupt than which. And that's been tabled to PM and DPM. Right? It's awaiting to be published. We then said we needed to make MACC more sexy. Right? We needed to have people get more in touch with them. So we introduced a hotline. We introduced a mascot called Agent Lang. So that's the guy you see there. By the way, it's not an owl. It's actually supposed to be an eagle, right? And this is a species of eagle that actually exists only in Malaysia, in Langkawi. We did the research. He is only black and white, no gray, right? He mates for life. He's loyal. And he eats snakes for dinner. So he'll go after the corrupt ones. Okay? So his name is Agent Lang. Those of you who want badges, we can make available badges at a later point. Right? But the number to call is 1-800-88-6000. That's the MACC hotline. Right? Now the name and shame database. It sounds very mundane. If you go to the MACC website, you will see the name and shame database. How many do we have now? Yeah, we've got over 800 names of people who have been convicted of corruption offenses. Okay? And if you go to the MACC website, it is there. It's a database. How long do you think it took for us to set this up? Yes. It took 7 months. And I had to go back to PM 3 times. Okay? It took 7 months. It's a database. How difficult can it be? But PM said, I want a database with all identification and photographs. When we first had the name no IC. So when we said, guys, we need the IC. Tak boleh lah tuan, this is Malaysia, tak boleh malu orang ni. We had to go to PM. PM said, no, I want the full database. These are convicted offenders, put the database. Second time, went back to PM, got name, got IC, no photograph. PM kicked again. Finally got name, IC, photograph, but couldn't see the picture. They had blurred the picture. Basic again, tak boleh lah tuan, ini Malaysia, tak boleh malu orang ni. Finally, we had to get PM and Attorney General in the same room. And Attorney General said these people are convicted in in a court of law, you are allowed to publish the name. Okay? And why do I emphasize this a lot? After we published it, it's just a mundane database. We got a call from the US Embassy. The US State Department wanted this database. And they said, we like what you have done. We want to take it and monitor this database, and we will disallow any man or woman who was on this database from entering our country. We will deny them a visa. That is in place today. Okay? So my question has always been, you know what, when the Americans can recognize what we've done, why can't the Malaysians? And of course, the My Procurement portal. Transparency on all procurement-related activities at Ministry of Finance. And in addition, we've tried to reduce the red tape. So we've reduced the requirements for, we used to have 780 different licenses. We've now reduced it to 375. There's been a cost savings and less bureaucracy. We're still working on it to reduce it even further. Now, we've also had MACC make a few busts. Some of the busts that they've done on the Customs Department has yielded quite high revenues for the government. Higher tax collection, and so on and so forth. We've also been working with MACC in transforming their capability. So we've been funding to get private sector individuals to be seconded, just like Pemandu does. Through Pemandu, we've been trying to get private sector individuals to go into MACC to provide additional services like forensic accounting, other forensic services, right? Because corruption is getting very complex. You need to know what to look for before you can charge the guy. We've had mixed results. There are two indices that PM has said that he will champion. The two are actually run by Transparency International. One is called the Global Corruption Barometer, the GCB, and the other one is called the Corruption Perception Index. Now, over the last 2 years, the Global Corruption Barometer, which is a measure of how Malaysians perceive the government's effort to fight corruption, if it's being effective or not, that has gone up steadily. We're hitting about 50%, Malaysians saying, which was about 28% in 2009. Okay, it's gone up to 50% to say, yeah, we think government's effort to fight corruption is becoming effective. While the Corruption Perception Index, which is an outside-in view, this is a collection of different surveys that has dropped. Some of the reasons it's dropped is, in particular, last year. In particular, this CPI is a collection of, actually originally a collection of 11 different indices. And last year, Transparency International decided to throw in one more index called the Bribe Payers Index. The Bribe Payers Index is an index of looking at the propensity for a Malaysian businessman to go outside of Malaysia and bribe for a project outside of Malaysia. So nothing to do with the government. Okay. Once they included that, it brought our scores down significantly. If you take that out, we actually improved our scores. We're not giving you excuses. Okay. Part of the impact is also the fact that the dust storm is still out there. There needs to be time to settle, but we will keep on fighting. Now, the key thing that we want to highlight is the fact that you need to, in particular with corruption, you need to correlate it with the economy, right? Are people confident in investing in Malaysia because it's less corrupt than other countries? Answer is yes. Right? So basically, the one that I want to emphasize here is on the American Chamber of Commerce. In 2011, August, they did a survey of all ASEAN countries, all senior American executives who are working in and around Asia. Right? And they asked the question, which country which country in ASEAN would receive the highest FDI from American companies? And their answer was Malaysia. And the main reason that these executives gave was they felt that the government's effort to fight corruption was getting better. Okay? So various other surveys have also said that the effectiveness of fighting corruption is getting better. Right? And of course, the World Bank survey also has got us climbing the charts from a ranking of 23, World Bank Doing Business Report 2012. We were ranked 23 in 2010 and 11, and we went up to number 18 in 2012. So various other surveys, FDI has correlated with the fact that somewhere, somehow, we're beginning to address the issues. It's not to say that we have totally addressed it. There's a lot more to be done. Okay. I'd also like to, I won't belabor the point now. Now going forward, some of the things that we're beginning to think about for the next wave of government transformation in fighting corruption. This, to me, is a bit of a wake-up call for all of us, right? In particular, people like me, my generation, right? Looking forward. This is a study that was done of how many students? 1,800. 1,800 university students, right? It was done back in 2002 and 2007. What it says is our next generation is finished. The upcoming leaders of this country feel that it is okay to give. And it's also okay to take if you are in a position of authority. Right? To me, somewhere, somehow, so it's okay to accept bribes. It's going up. These school kids think it's okay to accept bribes, even if you are in a position of authority. Right? It's okay to give the bribe. So somewhere, our value systems is breaking apart. So to me, this is a massive wake-up call to say we've got to start addressing it in our education system. I mean, today, those of you who have kids who go to school, who are in standard 1, standard 2, you know, when they get into the car, they say, my teacher says I have to buckle up. Daddy, you did not buckle up. My teacher says you've got to buckle up. How come that kid doesn't say, Daddy, you were speeding and you can't write the police stamp? Right? We got to get our kids, the minute the kids start saying that, you will feel malu enough to say, yeah, I got to stop this. Right? So we got to improve our value systems. Right? And we got to teach our kids, it is not right to give the bribe. So that's something we're beginning to address. Another thing, by the way, someone asked me earlier, how come if the cop asks you for the bribe, what happens? If you're forced to give. There are times when you have no choice. You do give, but I urge you, still report. Okay, still report it. Yeah, you are in the wrong, right? But you call up and you make the report. Okay. Little known fact as citizens that you should know about. Let's assume just around the Pulsar area you were speeding, got caught, got solicited, you just paid 50 ringgit and you went off. And you were pissed off and you called up the hotline, okay? And let's assume the hotline receives about 5 calls within 2 hours. MACC can mount a raid. And if they find that cop there, they go up to him. Of course, it's your word against his, right? How are they going to catch him for corruption? But if they find more than 30 ringgit on his body while he is on duty, he can get arrested. So it's worth reporting. So you don't catch him for corruption, you catch him for having more than 30 ringgit on his body while during operation. It's like catching Al Capone. Yeah? So these are small things that citizens need to be aware of. And what I keep saying is, it's only when the giving stops can the taking also stop. Right? We can't just say, yeah, yes, the urge is there when you are in operation somewhere to take the bribe, but only when the giving stops can the taking also stop. Right? It's not an easy fight, corruption. Not at all an easy fight. But it's got to start somewhere. And I think we have the leadership. So it's time citizens stand up for it and say, yeah, we will also stop the giving. You know, so I'd like to ask you to go out there and start raising the awareness. Right? Talk to our younger generation. You know, let's not give up. Yeah? Thanks.